This is Doug Scheiding, the Rogue Cookers, Texas embedded correspondent. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show.
Start the game! Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh, should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Welcome to the really big Barbecue Central Show, a show that from time to time talks about barbecue and grilling items originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city of Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I am your program host, Greg Rippey. Happy to have you aboard here for your fun and frivolity of live fire cooking. If you want to jump in on the show tonight, there is a whole segment that has quickly developed for you to do that, but here are your contact information bits.
You can get in touch with the show by calling 216-220-0966. Email Greg at the bbqcentralshow.com. On the Twitter and Instagrams at BBQ Central Show.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening coming up in about 12 minutes from now. It is the first Tuesday of a new month, February 2019, rapidly coming to a close. And that brings our second 2020 visit from the Pitmaster of Killer Hogs barbecue team and the co-founder of HowToBBQRight.com. Malcom Reed will be joining me, and we're going to be talking with Malcom about a number of topics this evening, to include the following: Chicago-style beef, Italian beef. Not only that, I will pin him to the ground on where competition steak cooking is going. Notwithstanding that, I will make him tell me that Bloody Mary contests are the last bastion of insanity going on in this country right now. And we might talk about some other stuff. He's a big deer hunter. If you hunt, things that you may or may not kill include deer. I'm not a big hunter. Okay, well, let me rephrase that. I'm not a hunter myself. I like to hunt for good deals in the meat case from time to time. But I'm not going to go in a perch out in the cold and sit for hours and hope that I take away something after I've invested some time. And no, to me, it's not fun sitting in a tree and hanging out. Like fishing isn't fun. Sitting in a boat or off of the cliffs of a stream and tossing a line in the water because it's fun. No, if I'm going out to hunt, I want to shoot like 50 things or want to catch like 50 fish. That's where the payback for me is. If you're into that kind of thing, good for you. Malcolm's into hunting. He's got a whole other thing that goes along with it. But he does collect deer. He does process that. Well, I think he has a processor that does that. But he has recipes and stuff that he's talking about here recently. So we'll talk to Malcom maybe a little bit about deer hunting as time allows. So Malcom up first. Then we will move to 35 Past, and we will welcome back what will be a second-timer to the show. If you're a Food Network fan, you see him quite a bit there hosting shows. They are also, from time to time, guests on the Wrap-Up Show. That is the show that recaps the Howard Stern Show every morning on Howard 101. I believe at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Wrap-Up Show airs. I should be a guest on the Wrap-Up Show, by the way. I would just like to point that out. I would be a spectacular guest. I'm fun. I'm witty. I could talk about food. And I know at least half of the hosts that host the Wrap-Up Show are really into food. I'm not necessarily a fast food junkie like one of the co-hosts, but I can talk about food. I know the Stern Show. I'm, again, witty. I have a good speak about me. I can cobble sentences together at a rapid rate. I don't know how I turned off on that street of where I should be hosting or not. Somebody I mentioned that on Twitter, and somebody said, well, the people that they have as guests on the wrap-up show have some amount of fame. You have none. Like, what? Who the hell are you? Meanwhile, I punch up on this guy's info, and he's got 13 followers. So I felt very proud of myself to say, go beat it, man, with 13 followers, which pretty much entails your immediate family, maybe an aunt or an uncle. Meanwhile, I'm approaching 10,000 followers. So F off. That is a monicum of fame, I might add, whether it's internet or not. If you lump all of my social media followings together, I have tens of thousands of followers. So take your 13 and beat it, Twitter troll. I'm way off base here. Anyway, so sometimes a guest on the wrap-up show and one-time guest here on this show. He's half of the Grill Dads. Mark Anderson will be back on the show. Did you know that podcasting is something that is very popular these days? Some might call me a podcast pioneer, as I've been doing it for 12 years or so. But the Grill Dads are talking about launching a podcast soon, so we'll have Mark on to talk about that and some other things that the Grill Dads are up to. Then we'll move into the second hour. You would have found a second or a first Tuesday of the month in the second hour guest, that being Sam the cooking guy, but nope.
Get that big stuff out of here.
I'm not sure exactly where the mistake was because I do quite a bit of due diligence and confirmation reach outs, not arounds, reach outs to my guests starting Friday and Saturday leading up to the show, saying, hey, are we good? Do we want to go an hour? Do we want to go a segment? All ironed out well in advance. Outlines being generated because I hate to go into the show flying by the seat of my pants. I could do it, but I would rather be as prepared as possible just in case. And then today at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I made a mistake. Can't come on.
Get that big stuff out of here.
What? Come on, man. What did you forget? Last second, what comes up? I don't even think anything come up. I think you just forgot. Oh. So, we've backfilled Sam's spot with one of the longest running sponsors of the show. A guy who is very successful in the rub and sauce biz, in the butchering biz, although he's retired from it. He is the pitmaster of Butcher Barbecue. Dave Bosca will rejoin the show. Multiple time guest, by the way. World champion. And we will also talk podcasting with Dave Bosca, as I've mentioned here on the show over the last month or two. Dave has recently launched a podcast, so I would love to talk to him about how he's getting on with his podcast and if he thinks it's a long-term venture. I mean, everybody's really excited about getting into podcasting. But I think that in the end, when the luster wears off, which is right around the fourth show, and you realize you got to keep doing it, that's where you find that's where the rubber meets the road. All of a sudden, people go from once a week to once every other week, or once a month, and once a quarter, and quickly they're fading off. It's a joke. Most barbecue podcasts, as I say time and time again, are worthless, drivel. They cannot put in the work and the effort to sustain because they think, I don't know, there's going to be a lot of money right off the bat, or fame, fortune and fame. They're going to get recognized at their local meat shop. It's work. You got to figure out a way to do it and do it right, and then you have to commit to time. Those are the three most important. They're really hard to do, by the way. Just look at how many Barbecue podcasts have come and gone. Many have not withstood the test of time. It's tough. Not everybody can do it. So that is where we end guesting, and then depending on what Dave leaves for everybody else, time-wise, we'll do the ever-popular where nobody calls in live open segment on the show. So you can talk about anything food-related if you want. You can talk about anything sports-related. You can ask me a personal question, which I may or may not answer. Who knows? And there you go. That's how it lays out. We have Malcom Reed coming up shortly. We have Mark Anderson of the Grill Dads after Malcom. And then in the second hour, Dave Boskin. By the way, all will be coming in via Skype video. Very excited when the whole show can do. There's at least potential for great audio on 3. Doesn't mean there's going to be great audio, but there's potential. Cell phones suck. Before we get to Malcom Reed, I want to talk to you about Green Mountain Grills. I'm ever excited to get my hands on a prime Green Mountain grill here sooner or later. I've had the choice line for, well over 8 years, I guess. My original models are still going strong. They're not showing any signs of fading. They're not showing any signs of not cooking well, holding temperature, cracking, catching fire, exploding, none of that. You're getting quality products when you go to greenmountaingrills.com. You find where the dealers are. You go to the dealer's store. You ask all the questions that you want. They're educated. They don't want you just going online, buying something, trying it, going, I don't know what I'm doing. I'll send it right back. No. We want to prevent buyer's remorse. That's why they teach their dealers, who in turn teach you. You're armed with the info to be a success right when you get it home. You put it together. It's really easy. Maybe they put it all together for you right at the selling dealer. Who knows? Right there in retail. That's how I like to do it. Everybody knows I'm not handy. If I don't have to put something together, I would rather not. However, I put both of my Green Mountain grills together with these two hands and very few tools, which I own. Again, I have this tool right here. You never know when I'm going to need it. I don't know what that is. You can grab stuff with it and turn. It's got teeth like. I put it together with that. It took less than an hour. Real easy to do. Now you're off and running. Choice line, which is the original Prime line, which is the newer, bigger tech, bigger chassis, all that good stuff. Come on. GreenMountainGrills.com is the place to go. They have pellets that you can buy. They have sauces and rubs and accessories. They got it all there. Jason Baker and the gang. Getting ready to have him on the show, by the way. Looking forward to catching up with Jason here over the next month or so with some big announcements. Malcom Reed out of the break. Hang on.
Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Hey, this portion of the show being brought to you by Butcher Barbecue, makers of award-winning injections, marinades, rubs, barbecue sauces, grilling oils, all of Butcher Barbecue products tested on the competition circuit, as well as backyards worldwide. Be the pitmaster of your neighborhood and visit butcherbbq.com to stock up right now. Always trust your butcher. It is the first Tuesday of a new month, that being the Lovers Month of February. And we race to the hotline and welcome the pitmaster of Killer Hogs Barbecue and the co-creator of How to BBQ Right, Malcom Reed, joins us on the show. Hey, Malcom.
Hey, Greg. What's happening, man?
Not much. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing wonderful.
All right, so we're not at the
February.
We're not at the warehouse, but are we at the home or are we at the warehouse and we just got a different look?
No, we're at home tonight.
All right. So why is that? I just wonder when we make you know me, I'm inside the box. I get used to stuff, and when things change, I immediately become sweaty palms and wondering what things are going to be happening. I mean, you just lucked out and happened to be at home?
No, yeah, I just didn't drive back across town to the office.
Yes. Well, I certainly understand that. That's a swell pig that you got behind you there, too. I mean, that's probably the motif of the house, more or less, right?
Yeah, Shell's she kind of has a theme going, especially the kitchen.
All right, Malcolm. So let me get your quick thoughts. I know you're a big sports guy. Did you have any thoughts on Chiefs winning the Super Bowl? Are you happy about that? Were you oh, wait a second. Now that I think about it, you were probably a little disappointed as you're a childhood San Francisco 49ers fan, if I remember correctly.
Well, I was a big Joe Montana fan when I was a kid. Now I'm a Vikings fan. I have been for a long time.
Oh, wow.
So I really didn't have much vested. I mean, I guess, seeing Andy Reid finally get him a Super Bowl, he's a pretty good guy. I respect his coaching, so I was happy for him.
I'm glad that you was able to switch teams, because otherwise you could be a completely conflicted man where you have Joe Montana, where his best years were San Francisco 49er guy, but then at the end he was traded to the Kansas City Chiefs where he ended the career. I mean, that would have been a terrible situation for you to be in.
Hey, he almost took the Chiefs to the Super Bowl.
Yes, that's right. So it's why he's one of the best. You think he's the best quarterback ever?
He gets my vote. I'd have to put, maybe Marino, Elway, then maybe Brady. I'm not a big Brady guy. My son's a Brady fan.
Really? Why don't you like? Why do you think Brady is not top 1 or 2? I mean, Dan Marino didn't win any Super Bowls ever.
That's who I grew up watching, though. See, I'm ranking on a bias here, Greg.
Well, I hear you. Are you also
heroes.
a Jim Kelly fan? Because I was a big Jim Kelly fan. They went to 4 Super Bowls in a row and lost 4 in a row, which no team has ever done. But those teams were spectacular otherwise.
I'm not a Jim Kelly fan. I mean, he deserves every bit of credit he gets. He didn't win the big game, but he did go to 4.
Yeah.
And I guess Aikman was kind of his thorn. He kept beating them every time, and then. Who else? I guess
the Giants. The Giants beat them. That was
Giants got one. Phil Simms. Yeah.
Norwood missed the kick to win that one. Laces out. I think that's kind of where the whole pet detective thing might have came from. Unbelievable. So you watched the game. I imagine food is a pretty big deal out there. So did you have any specific food items that you thought were great or a big hit?
Well, Saturday I kind of did an Instagram day where I was cooking up San Francisco versus a Kansas City style recipe. I did California Gold Rush wings for the 49ers, where I took kind of a play on a mustard barbecue sauce mixed with sriracha and the hot sauce and butter and did some wings up on the grill. And then also did just some Kansas City style ribs. And I don't know if if it tells you anything, the Kansas City ribs won Saturday. So that I'm hoping that's what pulled them through the next day.
I see. You were the old pognificator right there, huh? I see what you're doing.
There you go.
Give me some grilled wing tips, because I've been getting a lot of questions myself. I don't necessarily consider myself a respected cook. I mean, I have a lot of time on the grill, but I mean, you are somebody that people are approaching. What's a tip or maybe something in a process that people don't typically do that might help them get that wing game up a notch?
Well, if I'm grilling wings, I like to have a 2-zone fire, because with wings, you got to break that fat down first in them. You got to kind of render it some. So I start them off the direct heat. And as they start getting closer, I move them over and crisp them up. And that's when I put the sauce or anything that I want to put on them over the direct heat. That way it kind of chars it up. It gets all that flavor in there. If I'm cooking them on the smoker or pellet grill, something like that, I'm ramping the temp up and cooking them at like 325 the whole time. I just like poultry cooked up that hot, and it breaks that wing down. And I cook them way past 165 where they're done. White meat's done at 165. I look for like 198 to 200 degrees in my wings, and if they get to 202, it's fine. I like it to where I can pop the bone out, it comes out clean, and you just got a good bite of a wing. That's how I like to eat them.
Does it dry out when it gets up into that temperature? Or you don't find that?
I think wings have so much fat in them, Greg, as it renders down, it keeps that meat moist and juicy. Now, of course, if you kept cooking them, you're eventually going to dry them out, but the texture is good up in those high temps on wings. They're forgiving, much like a thigh. As comp guys, when we're cooking chicken thighs, we're cooking them way hotter than 175. So it kind of has that same premise to it.
When you are prepping the wing, do you do anything? What I've been seeing recently is coat the wings in cornstarch, or an hour or two before you put them on the grill. Stick them in the refrigerator, and that cold air is going to help dry the skin out, which leads ultimately to a crispier top.
Well, I'll do a little dry brine on them. That's just where we season them and let them set for a while. That's about all I do. And I have cooked some with the cornstarch, and it works to get a crispy wing. I've set up a Weber grill with a vortex for that, and it makes a real crispy wing.
Is it crispy, or is it? I don't want to assume you've been to a Hooters and had their wing, which to me, that's the only good thing about Hooters is the wings, by the way. Especially depending on what Hooters you're going to. It can be kind of a travesty, but the wings have always been really good. But those are a breaded wing. I mean, I'm typically true buffalo style wing, fried wing, not breaded, with the buffalo sauce. I have a homemade recipe that I can send you, which will absolutely blow your mind. Maybe you could do it on a video. Give me credit. But I'm not really the breaded guy. But those wings kind of changed my life. Plus, the blue cheese that they have at Hooters is really good. It's a great 1-2 combo.
Well, I like a good fried wing. I order them naked, though. It's where they don't batter them. They just fry the wing with the skin, and they get really crispy that way. To me, that's kind of the traditional way. But the closest you can get to it on a grill is by using a little bit of cornstarch on the skin, letting it set. It kind of makes it almost where it has a fried crust-like texture on it. Now, you can't go too heavy, or it'll have that kind of a grainy taste. You just want to use a little starch, a light one. But when you do it on the grill that way, it does get crispy. So, it's kind of a faux fried wing that's been grilled.
Yeah, I love wings. I could eat them every night. One of my Michigan embedded correspondent, John Solberg, it looks like every time he's doing an Instagram story, he's always cooking wings and, throwing them in some kind of sausage. But he's more of a non-carb guy, so I think that fits a lot of keto diets as well. So chicken wings are absolutely fabulous. And they're a staple when it comes to Super Bowl style appetizers or even main dishes. You can make a whole bunch with a whole bunch of different sauces, or just have them on the side and people can go crazy dipping or putting them on the plate or whatever it is. The other thing that I saw you make was you took a meathead from AmazingRibs.com recipe. So this was the Chicago style Italian beef, and then put the old Malcom Reed spin on it, or you made it. Maybe you didn't really deviate. So talk to me from start to finish there. Why did you choose Chicago-style Italian beef, and then how do you make it?
Well, I've been wanting to do some of Meathead's recipes, and he's kind of, wanted me to come on and try some of his stuff out just to give it my stamp of approval. So I was looking for something to do for Super Bowl coming back, and I said, what's better than a Chicago Italian beef sandwich? I just thought that had football wrote all over it. And so I pretty much followed his recipe straightforward. The only thing that I did a little different was I added a little salt to it. I just thought the meat needed it. This is my personal taste, but you could leave it off. I mean, it's not in his recipe, I don't know. He may have just left it out of the recipe accidentally, I'm sure. But it was pretty easy, man. The whole key to this is it's finding a good cut of beef. I use top sirloin. You could use top round, bottom round. You want to get the fat trimmed of it because you want it lean. And then you set up a pan on a rack. So I use like a 9x13 baking pan, like something you make a cake in. That's where you build your beef juice, all that the liquid that you're going to dip this medium rare beef back in to kind of finish it. That cooks on the grill, and you put a rack over it with the beef on top, seasoned up with the herbs and seasonings and all that. And you cook it till it's medium rare. It took about 90 minutes, 2 hours, something like that. Huh. And then you have to chill it because you have to slice it super thin. Now, the places in Chicago, they run it through a meat slicer, and, they get it papered thin, almost see through it. And so they pile it up on the sandwich after they cook it back in the gravy. And that's what they call the beef juice. It's not au jus because it didn't really cook out. We made it with beef bouillon, water, and a little more of the seasonings. But it does get some essence of the meat because it's cooking, right below it as it's dripping. And then, you got to have a good bread. You pile the meat up on the bread after it's been dipped in the juice for about a minute. It's all hot and steamy. Put a little bit of that extra juice on the bread. You got to have some grilled green bell pepper on it, just a couple strips. And then they top it with a condiment called jardiniere. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm no expert at that. But all it is basically like a chopped up fresh vegetables. That's what it means. It's been marinated sometimes, I think Chicago styles in vinegar, but in Italy, they do it in oil, like olive oil. But it's just a topping, kind of like a relish if you think of it. Yep. And that's the sandwich. That's the traditional way. Now, I did the combo too, which is you stick a all up inside the bun. You put a sweet Italian sausage with all that meat and all that goodness, and I added provolone cheese. So
Was it a whole?
really over the
Was it a
top.
whole sausage or was it like a ground up sausage?
It's a fresh a sweet Italian sausage is what it's called. I just bought one from a grocery store. It's it's not cured or anything. It's just fresh sausage cased. So it's a whole link that goes on there, man.
Oh boy!
That with the hot beef and the cheese and the peppers and the jardinera and all that, and then dip back in the juice, man. It's a super sandwich. It really is.
No doubt about it. Super for the Super Bowl, if that's what you're trying to get at there. No doubt about it. Now, I've been to Chicago. I've had the Italian beef once, and it wasn't at any of the ones that secretly were recommended, nor was it like a Portillo's or one of the touristy trap type places. But I've heard that there's varying opinions on if you should be dipping the bread and soaking that in the juice, at least on the bottom half. What do you recommend, or how did you do it?
Well, the one that I did, it was better dipped. You really, for something about the bread, me and Rochelle just spent time dipping the bread in the juice. It was so good. So you can't go wrong with it. But the key is you got to get a sturdy enough roll, when it's like a high gluten roll, soft on the middle, and almost like a thicker type outer crust on the outside to hold up to that hot juice. So you got to, if just regular bread will fall apart in it. You got to have something hardy that's going to hold up. And I was told there's bakeries up there that people swear by to make that bread. It's really an Italian roll that they use, and the closest I could get was a fresh French roll at Walmart, Walmart bakery. I tried. I went to Kroger, Walmart, a couple other little local grocery stores, even an Aldi that was supposed to have a Chicago style, but Walmart had the closest one I could find.
There's no, I would figure down where you are, there'd be a couple good mom and pop bakeries that might make some good crusty rolls.
We don't have any. We don't really have anything like that in Hernando.
Weird. Are you a Miracle Whip guy or a mayo guy?
Oh, mayo.
Yes.
Blue plate mayo.
Blue plate? I've never heard of blue plate. I've heard of Duke's and
yeah.
Hellman's, and there's another one that I'm forgetting right off the top of my head. But I've never heard of blue plate. Is that a regional?
It's I think it's down in New Orleans. I think is where it comes from.
So what makes that
Duke's is
special?
a good one.
Yeah, Duke's is good. Is there anything that makes it particularly special, or just something you grew up on?
My granny always had it in the refrigerator.
Yeah. I think that mayo is one of those things you kind of grow up on. Sam, the cooking guy, is a huge fan of Kewpie mayo. You ever heard of that? It's a Japanese style mayo.
No, that one's new to me. I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, I'll have to have him send you a bottle of that and see if it doesn't change your life. You can get it on Amazon. It looks a little weird, and the container it comes in is kind of chintzy, so it kind of freaks you out a little bit. But he always has 4 or 5 different containers when he's doing his recipes and stuff, and he swears by it. So I'll have to have him send you a bottle so you can try it out and you can tell us about it next month. All right, let's talk about, enough of the Super Bowl stuff. Let's talk about real competition. The Shed. Now, I knew you were down there just because I'm following you on social media, but 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, Robin from grillgirl.com was talking about how her and her dad, the Eddie, the Tropical Storm Eddie, were heading down to the Shed to take part. Now, she was documenting most of the time, and then I think they were doing part of the steak contest, but she wasn't going to do that travesty of a drink contest we'll get into here in a second. So what did you find good about the steak contest, and how did you guys do?
Well, the whole thing was amazing. Those guys down there at the Shed, man, Brad and Brooke really put it on. It was, there was 200 teams there, real party-like atmosphere. They had a huge seafood bowl on Friday night, all you could eat crawfish and shrimp and all kinds of other stuff to go with it, all the fixings and free beer the whole weekend. That was what was crazy to me.
Really?
But they had a beer truck.
Nice.
And I guess it had 5 taps, some local stuff, some domestic stuff. But, man, it was amazing. And the beer kept flowing both days I was there. And I probably had a little too much on Friday. I was paying for it a little on Saturday.
Wow.
But, no, we had a blast. We looked up. Well, we did the Bloody Mary contest. Rochelle did that. I made the Bloody Mary, and she kind of decorated it up. We didn't go over the top with ours, and it probably hurt us a little bit. I think we ended up like 34th, I think, out of 100 entries or something like that in Bloody Mary, which that was respectable. It was a good Bloody Mary. We did turkey, and we did little turkey sliders. They were in the top 20. It was just a basic. I took Jolene down there, so we cooked ribs and we cooked turkey on Jolene. Ribs we didn't fare so well. I think we were like 67th out of it was a well over 100 rib team. So.
Oh, wow.
But the steaks, which is what everybody was there for, we won the second steak, first place, and it was actually the first three-way tie. Johnny Joseph, Brian Caruso, and Waylon and me, I guess. That was one where that was the steak that Waylon flipped, and I did the time, and then I did the other one. So he gets the credit for it. But it was Killer Hogs. Killer Hogs won it.
Nice. All right.
So yeah, we had a blast, man.
Do you win a golden ticket then, since you win that?
Yeah,
or
we did.
So
Yep,
you already qualified for the final
state championship. Qualified for the World Foods again. That's
good weekend and a lot of
good
beer,
weekend.
evident. All right, now look, can I please hate on that freaking Bloody Mary contest? Give me some room, Malcolm. I mean,
Go for it.
What the fuck is going on down there? This is not a drink. It is a drink. Okay, I get it in concept. It is not a goddamn drink. There's 15 pounds of food hanging off most of those drinks. One had a freaking steak on it. I get it's kind of keeping with the theme here. And if anyone has ever wondered for 1 second why every other country in the world hates America, all they had to do was show up to the shed and see that travesty of a Bloody Mary contest. Of course everybody else hates us. We're hanging 78 pounds of crabs and steak and every kind of vegetable. There's so much weight hanging off of is anybody even eating the drink? Why is there so much shit going on those drinks, Malcolm? Please help me. I'm going mad.
It was just a decorating contest on that part. We were scored on how well you presented it, and the presentation was all of that and more. That wasn't the main scoring criteria you have, but the way they set it up, you turned in a pint of just a drink, and it couldn't be garnished or rimmed or anything, just a pint jar, and then you had your quart jar that, as long as it would stand up on its own, you could do anything. You could have put a whole turkey on it. You could have done whatever you wanted. And so it got over the top. I don't know.
Do people eat the garnish? Is that judged at all?
It was judged for appearance, and what they did, they had a big long table set up, and at the end of the night when they did the awards, I walked by and all of them were still there. They weren't touched.
Oh my God! I mean, it's just it's a significant waste of food on top of it.
Well, that is true.
Holy moly! And how many entries are there? Like over 100?
There was close to 100 on that one. I believe I heard 96 or something like that, but it was crazy. Yeah.
Malcolm,
only a few of them spilled over.
You are only a few of them. I mean, at that point, what's the difference? And if it falls over, then you're disqualified.
Yeah.
So then it's a complete waste. Your food's fucked. Your drink is screwed. You got nothing going on. You're just totally out of it. Oh my God, this is blowing my mind. We have to start a mission right now, Malcolm. Let's make a pact that by the end of the year, we will have taken down this Bloody Mary contest the way it sits now and turned it back into just like I saw you make a Bloody Mary on your channel, and it was nothing was crazy. The drink looked delicious. You had some olives and like some celery, a couple other things, but it never looked like it was getting ready to drop through the table, or that you would need a small backhoe to lift it up to your face to drink it or anything like that. That's what we need to have more of. This waste is incredible. I mean, the millenniums are laughing at us.
I don't know where this whole concept for Bloody Mary, having a buffet on it came from. I really don't. It's not, to me, it's about the drink. It's about,
right.
It's almost like that's your breakfast, that's your hangover cured drink. And, it's supposed to have a good flavor, a little kick to it. It's got some vodka in it to knock the edge off.
Right.
And then, if you got a little olives and pickles to go with it, that's fine. But that's all you need. That really is all you need, Greg, for a Bloody Mary.
It is a drink and not something you hang a whole bunch of food off of the top of. And but I guess that's what you need in order to win. You got to stand out, and this is just the way it is. Look, I've taken up too much time. Malcom Reed, very busy here. You can find him at howtobbqright.com. Make sure you're checking it out. You subscribe to the YouTube page as the followers continue to grow. And in the meantime, you can check him back here in the first week of March. If you can believe it, we'll be closing in on the Q1 close. Malcolm, always appreciate the time, my friend. Thanks so much.
Appreciate you, Greg. We'll see you next month.
You got it. There he is, Malcom Reed. Right there. Talking about the Bloody Mary. Now, I don't know if he can let loose as much as he may. Maybe he doesn't want to at all. But his wife takes part in that. So, Rochelle, you're kind of part of the problem. We're going to have to talk offline. And when you're competing in that, you know you can't just say, I make the best tasting Bloody Mary ever and turn that in with a lemon wedge as garnish. You're not going to win. It's like not garnishing your box. There's no self-respecting team that is going to decide not to garnish a box. I mean, you're just asking to lose. We didn't even get into talking about how the steak contests have gone amok. I'm on fire. Maybe Mark Anderson will indulge my insolence. Hey, folks, in the business of barbecue, is that you? Maybe. You like sausages? Of course you do. You want to add some sausages to your business? Why not add Southside Market and Barbecue? They're only the oldest barbecue joint in Texas, owned and operated by the same family for 3 generations, offering premium Central Texas barbecue products, slow smoked over real wood, shipping, distributing, manufacturing sausages for companies across the U.S., from food trucks to multi-chain restaurants. Southside sausage can be on your menu too. All meats processed in that on-site USDA-inspected facility, a trusted partner on focus and quality with authenticity. That's important. Shipping nationwide via the FedEx through food service distribution channels like Sysco, U.S. Foods, and Martin Foods. Co-packaging capable from research and development to package completion. They can follow your recipe or help you develop something brand new. Private labels also available if you're into that. Visit SouthsideMarket.com for more information or to order. If you go to SouthsideMarket.com to order, use promo code BBQ Central, all one word, lowercase, BBQ Central, and get 10% off your order each and every time. Once again, that's promo code BBQ Central when you visit SouthsideMarket.com. Mark Anderson coming up out of the break. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rampey.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by CookinPellets.com, your number one source for quality wood pellets for all your pellet-driven cookers. Visit CookinPellets.com for more information or to purchase. You can also visit Amazon.com to purchase as well. I feel bad. Uh-oh. Oh. See, we got a problem. All right. 2 weeks in a row, Skype worked just fine. No problems. But tonight we hang up with Malcom, and now we go to the Frozen thing. Now we got to reboot. I see Mark Anderson saying that he's here and ready to go. So just bear with me. I'm sure there's going to be an update because, why not? Right in the middle of the show, better be an update. Oh, there it comes. There it comes, Jerry. So we'll battle through this update. I did want to mention, because it's who said that? Oh, Huckleberry Barbecue said that he was going to see Malcom at a couple of barbecue classes over the next few weeks. I did tell him that we would try to promote that as time allowed, but I believe my self-indulgence was too much. And I went too long, and so it happens. However, my second guest tonight, been seen on the Food Network, co-hosting branded shows as The Grill Dads with his best buddy Ryan Fay. Tonight we talk about new podcasting the gents are getting ready to launch here shortly. And we will race to the hotline and welcome back friend of the show, Mark Anderson. Hey, Mark.
How's it going?
I'm absolutely fabulous, my friend. How are you?
Doing great.
All right, so I got to ask you right off the top, are you a Bloody Mary guy?
No.
Yes, good. That's the right answer, number one. Now, number two, and this is the more disturbing part. I was just on with Malcom Reed, and he was down at the shed last week or 2 weeks ago, and they were having a huge SCA or steak competition cook-off thing. Are you familiar with SCA?
Yes.
Yes. So they have a 2-day event down there, but then they also have these ancillary categories. One of them is the Bloody Mary ancillary category. And I'm telling you, Robin Lindars, the grill girl, did a live video as these people were turning these Bloody Marys. And I'm telling you, there had to have been a minimum of 6 or 7 pounds of various food, ranging from steak, shellfish, every kind of vegetable. I think maybe there was a turkey. I think there was a wild boar with a sword rammed down its butt down into the drink where it was topped.
This is where Instagram has ruined food, because people make stupid stuff like that because it looks cool and it's going to get a lot of likes. But in reality, you're never going to order it. Even if it does show up at your table, what the heck are you even going to do with it?
I don't know. And I don't know why these contests, if we can even say that, are continuing to happen around the country, because when you see, I agree, by the way, with this whole what Instagram is perpetuating, because look, if let's say Mark and I were going to decide to jump down into whatever next city next weekend to take part in this great Bloody Mary contest, but last weekend we watched the Instagram feed of what people were turning in. Well, of course, we're game planning about how we're going to have to bring in a A9 Wagyu brisket and a Berkshire pork butt and a whole Maine lobster, and then figure out how we're going to get it all to sit on top. By the way, none of that food is judged as part of, is our Bloody Mary going to win or not? So it's almost perpetuating this incredibly outlandish build of a drink that really is just waste. It's waste. I can't believe it, Mark. What's going on?
We're also, Faye and I are both actually pretty anti-food contest in general. That's people keep saying, when are you guys going to enter a barbecue competition? And I always say, when you don't get penalized for putting a bunch of garbage on top of a bunch of parsley. I mean, everyone's doing the same thing. And I've even interviewed some people in the past who are big time barbecue competition people. And I said, is that the same way that you make the barbecue at home for your friends and for yourself? And they say, no. Then what the hell are you doing?
Right. This is it's the way the competition has changed. This is competition barbecue.
Creativity.
Yeah.
It's literally and figuratively in the box.
Yeah.
Don't like it.
No doubt. Do you think grilled pineapple is the best thing that could come off a grill out of anything?
Not the best thing, but we're huge fans. We actually did it on Wendy Williams last year, where we coated it in togarashi and then grilled it. Really? So it was a Japanese spicy grilled pineapple. Yep. Awesome.
Really? So the sweetness and the spiciness play well off each other.
Oh, sweet heat. Yeah. It's awesome.
Sweet heat. All right.
It's actually really good garnish for barbecue chicken. But what's your take? Are you a pineapple on pizza guy?
Well, 100%. Yes. I think I'm pineapple on everything guy. I'm a huge fan of pineapple. The only reason I bring it up, it was a loaded question, because Meathead, in his last appearance, or his first appearance of 2020, we were in mid-segment, whatever. And all of a sudden, we're talking about pineapple or something, and he stopped. And I could see he's like, I think I'm going to commit to something here and say, but I'm going to say it. It's going to be taped, and I don't know if I want to do it. And within that moment of hesitation, you could see him go, F it. I'm just going to say it. And he's like, no matter protein or vegetable or mineral, the best thing that comes off a grill is pineapple. And I said, well, Jesus Christ, Meathead, I got to question everything you've said over the last 10 years that we've been interviewing. Like, are you kidding me? And so, but now I've asked other people, and they said that while grilled pineapple is certainly delicious, it's probably not the best thing to come off the grill, which you're confirming.
And we do it all the time if we have vegetarian friends coming over. So really fun, because you still get that grilled flavor, you still get some fun heat, but without the meat, which I don't personally understand, but they're happy.
Are you guys pro plant-based meat?
I like the idea of it. not against it. You know, I've had some good veggie burgers. Faye actually makes some really good veggie burgers. But I just haven't gotten around to trying it yet.
Do you think it's something that will stay around in 2020 and build from there?
It'll be interesting to see if this is a fad or if it's really going to stick. I mean, there's a lot of reputable sources coming up now who are saying, hey, this is vegetarian, but it's not healthier.
Yeah.
So, you know, it'll be interesting to see if it sticks. It's definitely the Brussels sprouts of 2020, though.
Well, I love Brussels sprouts. You like Brussels sprouts?
Love them, but I mean, you know, what was it, 2015? I mean, we're just getting beat over the head with Brussels sprouts every time you turn your social media on.
Yeah, everything Brussels sprouts, and of course, I had to have bacon because bacon continues to be one of those things that just won't quit. We're talking.
It's like 2019 was the year of the fluffy Japanese pancake,
yes,
right? It's gonna.
Why not? Of course. Mark Anderson joining me here, one of the Grill Dads. GrillDads.com is the website, and you can follow him on social media as well. Let's talk about this new venture that you and Faye have going on. We call it podcasting where I'm from. So as someone who has done a number of different media venues, you've done TV a number of times, obviously with shows, Food Network and so forth. You've been on radio before, probably both terrestrial. I know you've been on satellite radio because I've heard you on the wrap-up show on Howard Stern.
One of my favorites.
Absolutely. Why does podcasting at this stage feel like this is a good avenue? And when did the concept start, and when did you decide that hey, yeah, great idea, now let's start doing it?
You know, between, you know, going out to do Today's show, going to film our show, judging on other people's shows, we're getting to meet some of the most successful and interesting people in all of food. And after, you know, it's like a lot guys grocery games. Every time we're on there, we judge with different people. We stay in the same hotel that night. We go out for drinks, and we swap life stories. And we find ourselves getting to know these really interesting people. And we said, you know what? Let's just set up a microphone and share this experience and with our audience because we're super passionate about it. We're loving it, and so we did a test run with our good friend Carl Ruiz, and which is a really awful situation, obviously. But
yeah, sure.
You know, after we recorded it, Fan, I was like, hey, let's give this a real go. And now we've got 12 episodes in the hopper, including Jet Tila, Rocco DeSpirito, Pat LaFrida. And we've gotten a really good response about people making themselves available to be on the podcast, and we're excited. So we're going to kick it off, I think, the week of February 24th. It's going to be up on Spotify, Apple, and basically anywhere that you can download
all the various podcast platforms.
Yeah.
Does it change the tenor or tone, or that's redundant, of a conversation? So before this idea, you're having dinner with Rocco or, you know, whoever, and you're having normal conversation, however organic it just happens over the course of a meal. Now you're introducing a microphone. Does that somehow change, or is everybody able to look past it and it's like we're just peering into a conversation, or is it mission oriented now?
I've been smiling while you've been asking this question, because that's what's been the most fun for us. Is it doesn't change anything. One of my favorite quotes from the podcast is actually from Rocco, and Faye does the intro. He goes, "Hey everybody, this is Mark and Faye with the Bone In Podcast, and we're here to welcome our good friend Rocco DeSpirito." And Rocco goes, "I barely know you jerks." Saying that we're great friends is way overstated.
Yeah,
and people, you know, are relaxed and it's fun, and it really honestly isn't any different. You know, we just recorded one a couple weekends ago with Troy Johnson, and you know, he's a really successful food writer. He's been on, I think, a couple hundred episodes of Food Network TV as a judge, and we were all in San Francisco for Guy Fieri's birthday party, and you know, it was a themed birthday party, and you know, we set up the podcast in the hotel room, got a couple buckets of beers, and Troy walks in from the bar dressed up like Rocket Man, and we hit record. I mean, it's just fun.
So what kind of if we can geek out a little bit, I don't know how much my audience cares, but I don't care. It's for me. What kind of equipment do you have? Because, when I listen to someone who's been doing this, I mean, this is a live show, obviously, but I'm also recording it. Tomorrow, the first hour will be podcast number 1, Thursday, podcast number 2, and so on. But I've been podcasting now for 12 years. So when I listen to shows, maybe I'm a little bit more discerning than the traditional listener. You have fans. I have fans. People that listen to Grill Dads or watch Grill Dads might listen with a different ear. How crucial is audio fidelity, background noise? Like, how much are you guys taking into account so a listener experience is most appealing?
So, one of the things that we're really trying to figure out is that balance between having enough ambient noise so that you feel like you're in a live environment versus having it be distracting. And from an audio quality standpoint, I mean, my first 12 years out of college, I was an audio engineer in the music business, touring all over the world. So
Perfect.
I kind of geek out about the audiophile stuff as well. So our main thing is not to focus too much on it, but the audio quality has to be good enough that it's not distracting. So, we've tried some different things. We recorded with Pat LaFrida at his sandwich shop at Madison Square Garden. And it's fun because it's live, it's energetic. You can hear thousands of people buying their lunch, but you can hear us clearly. But it maybe is a little bit too much. Carl, we did in his restaurant right before they opened, but people are still setting tables and we're recording. We have SM58s and a Zoom.
Okay.
One of those 6 channels, H6 or whatever it's called.
Yep. I got. I think I have an H4, so I don't have the 6 or the 4 inputs for mics. I have 2 at the bottom, and then the top microphone could also pop off and convert into additional XLRs if I wanted to. But that's like the best setup mobily because you get really good audio. I mean, those Shure mics are like the standard of any ball microphone anyway, and I have a couple of those too. So I think from a reproduction standpoint, it's going to be right on point. And
it's also got to fit in the suitcase.
Yes.
As well.
Oh, I mean, that's
a big one.
Super easy to travel and go with. I think I may or may not go to the NBBQA event in Louisville the first weekend in April. And if I decide to commit to that, I'm taking it. And, it'll just be here and then here and here and then here.
Yep.
And, the sound fidelity is great. All right. So 224 is estimated launch, or is that guaranteed launch?
No, that's pretty
locked in.
Knock on whatever this is. We're going on the Today Show that day, booked to promote the launch. So
wow,
we've got all of the episodes edited. We're just gonna we're gonna launch it episodically, but it's
once a week.
What was that?
Once a week?
Yeah, we're gonna do once a week. We've got 12 recorded, so at that point, we'll kind of listen and get feedback, see what's working, see what people are enjoying, and then let that sort of influence how we move forward. And at that point, we're going to have to figure out, because Faye and I live 1,000 miles apart. So normally we're like, hey, we're going to Guy Fieri's birthday party. Let's call these 3 people to come to our hotel room and record. But if we have 6-7 weeks of not traveling together, we got to figure out how to do it remotely.
Right. No doubt about it. Well, we'll be on the lookout. 224, by the way, getting booked on the Today Show to announce your podcast is absolutely fact. I got to leverage some of that. Jesus.
Every time we walk out there, it's so surreal.
No doubt. So be on the lookout for the Grill Dads podcast. It's the Bone In podcast.
Yep.
All right.
Bone In with Mark and Faye.
Bone In with Mark and Faye launching 224. And this is Mark Anderson, the website grilldads.com. Mark, always appreciate the time, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you.
You got it. There he is, Mark Anderson. I mean, can I be a little jealous right now that he's launching a podcast, going on the freaking Today Show to launch it? Mark, all I'm asking is that somehow in the conversation with Savannah Guthrie or whoever else, maybe you're going to be talking with Al Roker because he's a food guy. and say, yeah, well, we were just talking about this podcast on my favorite live internet show, the Barbecue Central Show, and I'd mentioned we were going to be coming up here. But, just a little name drop like that. We'd appreciate that. The Centralites would appreciate that as a whole. We would love it. We would love it if you would do that. Yeah, we would love it. All right, that was Mark Anderson from the Grill Dads, and he thinks that food competition is ruining food. Grilled pineapple is really good, but not the best thing to come off the grill. And he's into podcasting. They're going to do podcasts. Bone In with Mark and Faye. Can't wait to tune in, and I will evaluate with my critical ear. All right, we are back to wrap the first hour. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Big name interviews, advice on cooking brisket and ribs, and the only host willing to share his honest opinion on all things important in the world of barbecue. It's the Barbecue Central Show.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by Fireboard. Monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously. Connect to Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring, or connect via Bluetooth. If you have Alexa or the Google Assistant at home, you're in luck, because Fireboard is fully integrated with both. You can find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232. Ladies and gentlemen, in the YouTube chat, California Barbecue Association Hall of Famer Sylvie Curry is in. Say hi to the Hall of Famer and give her proper respect. And congratulations. If you didn't know, Sylvie from Lady of Q recently voted in to the California Barbecue Association Hall of Fame, and well-deserved, I might add. We thank Mark Anderson from the Grill Dads once again for coming on the show. GrillDad.com. Is the website, and then the launch on the podcast, February 24th, and 12 are in the can right now. So there is a little bit of buffer to work with, but I don't know if you guys were listening very carefully. But they have to figure out remote. He had some good equipment for the live stuff, but if they're not going to get together a lot, here's what I suggest. Ryan does some on his own. Faye does some on his own. You can have specials, right? That might not be a bad idea. Divide and conquer. And then when you can come together. What's going on? Is this a shadow? No. Divide and conquer. And then when you're together, you can do them together as well. That might be easy. If you're going to have 2 remote guests, I only do it once a month and under protest. And most of the time it sounds okay, by the way. It does. That's the embedded correspondence, by the way. All right, we are pointing to the second hour. Dave Bosca from Butcher Barbecue will be on, and we'll be talking about his latest podcast venture. A lot of podcast themes going on here. If you have questions for Dave, if you have butchering questions for Dave, if you have cooking questions for Dave, I will take your calls live right here on this internet airwave. 216-220-0966 is the phone number if you want to call, or if you would like to forego the call because you're a little intimidated, you can send me an email, greg@thebbqcentralshow.com. That's greg@thebbqcentralshow.com. And I will either put you on the air with Dave and you can ask him your question, or send it to me in the text. I will read it to him, and then you will get your answer. After Dave, we're open, so if you want to jump in, you can use the same phone number and email address, and we'll chat it up then. Stick around for the second hour. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Jeff Stone of Grandpa's Pride Barbecue from the Panhandle of Florida, and you are listening to the Barbecue Central Show.
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
Boing. We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me!
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the charbono, dude!
Succulent fish! What?
He ate sushi for wieners.
Oh, listen, Libertius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
Welcome to the second hour, everybody. It's the Barbecue Central Show. We talk about live fire stuff right here every Tuesday, live from 9 to 11. It's being recorded, by the way, so if you missed the live show, you get the first hour on Wednesdays, you get the second hour on Thursdays. But I would encourage you once in your life, if you've never heard the show live, to tune in on a Tuesday. Why not?
Hit me!
What have you got to lose? It's so fun. You never know what's going to happen live. Certainly when you're hearing it on podcast, it's happening as it happened, but it's already happened. It's not live anymore. It's recorded. Somebody might have spoiled something for you, and now you're racing back to hear it. Once in your life, I would say, tune in to the live show and see what happens. It's 9 to 11 on Tuesdays, Eastern time, so you can make your time zone adjustments as necessary. Once again, coming up on the show in about 13 minutes from now, Dave Bosca from Butcher Barbecue, also the creator of Wild Seasoning. You would recall that Dave and I had a conversation about Wild Seasoning. That's more of the game-style rub, so if you're into that and you didn't know that Dave has a additional venture in the rub market, it is Wild, and that's W-Y-L-D-E, not W-I-L-D, W-Y-L-D-E. And if you are just a fan of the Butcher Barbecue website, if you go to butcherbbq.com, there is a Wild Seasonings link on the navigation top right. And click on that. It'll take you right over to Wild Season. So that'll be Dave coming up here shortly. Don't forget, you can follow me socially at BBQ Central Show on Instagram and Twitter. Also on TikTok, which I haven't really used too much yet, but I have it. And I'm fascinated with watching videos that other people make. Some of them are incredible. Very talented stuff. Some of them, they're really hoping that somebody likes them. But people are getting a lot of views. There's something to be said. You could be TikTok famous if that's up your alley. You could do it. It's new enough. People are still getting into it. A lot of things going on with it. There are everybody in travel volleyball that is a girl, and I'm sure it's guys too, but I'm just surrounded by girls. They're all doing TikToks, racing from a restaurant dining area to the bathroom where they do some 10-second TikTok video. Do I sound like a TikTok video? They're all doing it. And they don't give one shit if you are if they're blocking anything or you're in they're in your way. If they're in the middle of TikTok videos, blinders are on. They don't see anything. They got to get their dance moves in, or they got to lip sync whatever the tune they have set up is to, and they're all doing. And the blinders are on. So if you see a group of girls all dancing the same to a phone that's 10 feet away, just stop and wait until it's done. Don't bother trying to push through that. That's a waste. They're doing it. They're all doing it. It's crazy town. TikTok, man, get into it. So good. Guy the Cooking Sam says a lot of leggy gals on TikTok. That's a good reference right there. Guy the Cooking Sam. That's a great reference. I get it. Okay. I wanted to do this earlier, but I got lost in my words. I told you last week about the feed issue for the Best Of show. Let me see if I can pull this up. All right, so this is, oh, no, that's not. This is my main website, the bbqcentralshow.com. If you don't want to use a podcast app or a native podcast app, depending on what operating system you have, Android, iOS, whatever, you can subscribe on, I don't know if this is for every show or podcast out there, but at least for mine. If you go to my website, all the way up at the top right here, there's a button that says subscribe. You click on that. Now it will take you to a different page, and it's going to list out all the different ways that you can subscribe to the show. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, Android, Stitcher. Here's what I want to draw your attention to. This one right here, second one from the bottom, says by email. That's right. You can subscribe to the show by email. You don't have to use any apps or anything stupid like that. All you do is go to the subscribe page like I just showed you, find the light blue tab that I'm hovering over right now. And if you're listening on podcast, you can't see this. I apologize, but listen and remember the steps and you can do this. And then click by email. That will take you to this page. And it says right at the top, subscribe by email. All you have to do is put in a valid email address, just like that. Click the I agree, and then hit the blue subscribe button. It's just that easy. It will subscribe you. So when new shows are in the feed at that point, you will get an email alert, and it will say, here's your Barbecue Central show update, or something to that effect. And then you're all set. You don't need to have an app in order to. If you don't like it, I don't know. Maybe you're an email person. All you have to do is subscribe to the email, and then as soon as it updates, the next day you'll get an email in your inbox, and it'll say, the Barbecue Central show is updated, and here are the most recent shows. It'll give you maybe 3. And you don't get them every day. So once the feed updates, then you will get them, okay? Easy stuff here. Really good. So if you want to subscribe to the show outside of apps, do it by email in the steps I've just recounted to you. Also, coming up on the best moments of the Barbecue Central show in 10 minutes or less this Friday, folks, we've made it to episode 110. How about that? Wow. Taking you all the way back to August 30th, 2011. Daniel Bennett, at that point, was a guest on this show, and we talked a lot about chicken. And what was funny is that we were talking with Mark Anderson last segment, and he said, competition is something that has really stymied food creativity, or has made it such a bastardization of what it should be, but that's competition barbecue. Do you cook, as he said, do you cook the same barbecue at a competition that you would cook at your home? No. In fact, in this episode, as we talk about chicken, you will hear DVQ say right in the first couple minutes, what we make at competitions is nothing I would make at my house. The chicken that we make in competitions, I think she said something to the tune of, is a bastardized version of what we would make. It's braising, it's butter, it's sweet, blah, blah, blah. All stuff that we wouldn't normally eat. But she likes to score, so she will honor the system that will score her well and then prepare her chicken like that. Outside of that, crazy talk. So we have Danielle Bennett coming up in this Friday's edition. So if you want to hear how we were talking chicken, what is 8.5 years ago, you got to make sure that you're subscribed to the podcast, however that is, through the regular apps or through email now, as I've just told you. Then, hey, fun for you. You get to hear Diva Q. Maybe you're already subscribed. I thank you for that. And John Solberg continuing to dazzle with the best moments. Here's what I want to ask you. If you're a routine listener to the best moments, I want your feedback now that we are going to be 5 episodes in this year. As we turned the year, if you didn't know, John and I made a command decision through no input from anybody else because we operate unilaterally, taking the show to the 10-minute, actual 10-minute. It used to be 2 10-minute or less segments, so a total of around 20 minutes. But how do you like the 10-minute overall commitment, or a little bit less? I think most of them have been a little short of 10 minutes, so it's fitting right into the title, Best Moments of Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less. What I found is when I listen to it Friday on the way to work from my house and then 10 minutes out, by the time that segment is done, however John has masterfully put it together, I'm looking to click to listen to the entire show, which is kind of the goal here, is to regenerate some listens on older shows so you can always get an idea of where the show came from or how did the show sound 8 years ago, 9 years ago, 10 years ago, 12 years ago. That's also the secondary hope. Fun, exciting, extra content in the feed, but also making sure you're getting a wide, broad, that's redundant too, history of the show through the best moments. And you can get it done in 10 minutes. If that wets the whistle a little bit, that's good. That's what we're looking for. So I want your thoughts on how you think the new is going. Since the State of the Union address is going on, I think it's only fair that Greg should have a State of the Q-nion address in his open segment. We've missed the opening segment already. There's a State of the Union address tonight? Like the presidential State of the Union? Oh, cripes. Dave Bosca coming up. Oh, in the open segment. Sorry, open. Got it. Before we get to Dave, I want to talk to you about BigPapaSmokers.com, the one-stop online shop for all things barbecue, curated by Sterling Big Papa Ball himself. Award-winning rubs, American-made grills, and smokers. They got everything you need. They have 13 perfectly balanced flavors of rubs that turn ordinary meals into extraordinary. They have a great relationship with Steph Franklin over at Simply Marvelous. You can pair Big Papa's and Simply Marvelous rubs together. Now you have the West Coast offense. Everybody loves that. Big Papa's also owns Granny's barbecue sauce. So if you're sick and tired of the same old stuff that you find in the grocery store shelves or what you might have in your local mom and pop fireplace and grill shop, head on over to BigPapaSmokers.com and order up a case of Granny's barbecue sauce. It's great by itself, would also make a great base sauce if you're like somebody likes to mess around, if you will. Build on a great base. Now, if you're looking for smokers that are easy to use, check out that Mac 2-Star General Pellet Grill. We talk about it all the time. Big Papa is the exclusive Mac dealer online and even offers special packages. Nobody else does that. If you're not a fan of pellet smokers, try the old Hickory Ace BP, the only charcoal smoker that Big Papa trusts on his competition trailer. If you're not sure of what grill you need, you call them and ask. Get consult, 877-828-0727. Or shop the website, BigPapaSmokers.com. That's BigPoppa Smokers.com. By the way, on the heels of back-to-back brand championships, and you go to kcbs.us for Team of the Year standings as we are into the first week of February, sitting atop the KCBS leaderboard on February 4th, 2020 is none other than Sterling Big Papa Ball himself. Big Papa Smokers leading the way 1 month and 4 days in. Great. Good job, Sterling. Keep it up. You only got 10 more months to go. And you're in California, and there's hardly any competitions, and they're shrinking quick. Nevertheless, Dave Bosca coming up out of the break. Stick around.
The only show giving you a monthly visit from a doctor of barbecue. A man actually named Meathead. The author of a barbecue Bible. Bloggers, reviewers, competitors, and manufacturers by the dozens. It's the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, this portion of the show being brought to you by Smithfield, makers of fabulous pork. You can get it anywhere. You go to smokingwithsmithfield.com, and you can check out what's happening with competition stuff at Smithfield. Again, that's smokingwithsmithfield.com. Again, smokin', S-M-O-K-I-N, smokingwithsmithfield.com. Dave does not appear to be online, or we're having issues once again with Skype, but who knows? We'll see. We'll give him a little time here. And then if he doesn't show up, we'll summarily make fun of him. It'll be terrible. Still not there. All right, let me see. You know, Dave is different time zones, so I do try to be very diligent when I talk about Eastern time zones. And I think at this point, with most of my guests, I'm pretty sensitive to whatever time zones they are in. And I know that Oklahoma is 1 hour behind me. Then you get in the mountains, they're 2 hours. Then you get onto the left coast, they're typically 3 hours behind. Lance, are you still in the chat room? What's Hawaii? Is Hawaii 5 hours behind, or is it actually farther than that? I know we've had a time change recently, so you know. I think Hawaii's like 5 hours. I mean, in the opposite direction, Hawaii is almost the same time difference as England, just in the opposite direction. Hawaii might be like 5 hours behind. All right, let's see what happens here. We go to the hotline and welcome in friend of the show, longtime sponsor, Dave Bosker from Butcher Barbecue. Hey, Dave.
Hey, Greg.
All right, I can hear you. Hit the camera button at the bottom there so we can see the movie star good looks of Dave Bosker.
Well, I don't know if that's going to do any good.
What are you talking about? Look at that guy. Oh, you got a whole situation going on. That's the Dave Bosker podcast look, right?
Okay, yeah, we'll call it that.
Yeah, I like it. You got a whole studio set up. It's kind of like we're on Twit TV, like the tech guys do, and they have everybody's all set up like they're very professional. So I certainly, from a host perspective, Dave, as you can understand, I certainly appreciate when people go out of their way to sound great for the show. I want to talk to you about the podcast, but we'll get into that here in just a second. Let's talk a little bit of business first. You are obviously the longtime creator of Butcher Barbecue products. We started out with injections many, many, many years ago. We've since morphed into sauces and rubs and more sauces and more rubs. And then last year was also into the wild game seasoning portion. So from a business perspective, as 2019 came to a close and then you're looking into 2020, how did business close out for you last year, and how are we looking, or what are we looking for in 2020?
I think it closed real well. I had a good move by buying the warehouse icon. It was a lot of headaches at first. I'm getting an echo, so I'm going to pull them up.
All right.
Oh goodness. Sales wise, I was up double digits.
Oh, wow.
We made a good move with the warehouse. I'm happy with the way everything that's going. My brother came to work for me. I'm extremely happy with that because I got someone I can trust out there, someone that understands the product. That's a huge part.
Sure, no doubt.
We did start our sister company. We're calling it sister company, the Wild Seasoning. After we got it up and rolling, attended a couple trade shows with it. There's one change I wished I would have done, but you know, hindsight 2020, it'll be what it'll be.
Is it something that you would have had to have fixed at startup, or is it something that you've overcome since then?
No, it's nothing we've overcome. What it is, I wished I would have not done the summer sausage seasonings on the first round. I wished I'd have done jerky spices.
Just from a sales standpoint, or like not as high demand for summer sausage?
I think there's more of a demand for jerky than there is summer sausage.
All right. Jerky's, I don't know why, but I seem to be hearing a lot more jerky commercials than I've ever heard in my lifetime. I'm hearing them all the time, especially on a lot of the sports talk shows that I'm listening to. And it's a real push on good protein versus taking in shakes or eating protein bars or something like this. They're marketing at least as, well, here, take these great strips of beef and we've seasoned them and smoked them well, and you can get your protein that way instead of taking down a shake. I don't know if you're like a big health guy or not, but do you believe in jerky being a potentially better protein source than some of the other stuff?
Oh, it absolutely is a better protein source. And as you can tell, I am not exactly what you would call
world-class athlete.
There you go. I'm a barbecue athlete.
Yes. All right. I got that. So we would have gone with the jerky instead of the summer sausage. So is that something that you're going to keep then, or could that phase its way out of the line?
No, at this point, I'm definitely going to keep it.
All right.
I've got it into some stand-up display mixers we've got going, and the jerky spices we've started testing already. I'm wanting to have them by the first quarter or through the second quarter.
What's the key to good jerky?
I like a full flavor. I'm not a sweet jerky person. Teriyaki is huge in flavoring in it, but that's just not my go-to. I like a black pepper personally.
Are you a eye of round jerky guy, or what's your choice cut of, well, I say choice, not in grade, but like what's your favorite cut to use for jerky?
Eye round or top round.
Okay. Not necessarily, is it whatever's cheaper at the time? There isn't like a big discerning difference for you, or end product?
No, either one of those it makes a great jerky.
Do you need to get the jerky cutting system where you can, I don't know if you've ever seen these, Dave, but
yeah,
you know what I'm talking about? I don't know if everybody else is, but so you get this, long rectangular looking thing, and it's got rails on it, and you sit the meat down, but it holds it up just enough, and you can slide this knife that comes with it, and it's like a cutting guard, and you can get these very thin slices, and you can vary the thickness a little bit if you add the spacers up on it, so you can get a thicker cut. You take one out, you get a little bit thinner cut. Do you like those, or, I mean, should we be a little bit more manly about it and just kind of eyeball the cuts?
Manly is not the right word, but what I do is I cut my jerky spices to the size that's going to fit on my dehydrator tray or my smoker racks. So I just lightly freeze the bulk meat, and then it slices a lot easier.
All right. So when you bring the jerky stuff to market, is it going to be something that would be akin to like a high seasoning, so everything can be done in one package, or what's going to be the best way to do an eye of round or a top sirloin or whatever?
That's exactly probably what's going to be like. It's going to have the cure. It's going to have the flavoring. It's going to be all in one jar.
All right. And does it really only take like a couple hours to set up, or like what's the best time to let the cure part set in to give you a good product?
Yeah, you can do jerky in probably 2 hours. It's according to how thick it is. What you're doing is trying to cure it to keep it from spoiling during the cook process.
Now, are you a guy that would cook on your FE cookers, or do you have a special like jerky dehydrator thing that's like circular that you see like on a Ron Popeil commercial, or what do you have?
I've got both, and I actually like the FE a little bit better.
What kind of temperatures are you running at?
I wouldn't take the jerky over 150 degrees.
Now that's cooker temperature?
One of my FEs will run that low.
Wow. Okay. Otherwise, you want to make sure that you're staying within that range. It's almost like that's not a cold smoke by any stretch, but it's kind of a light heat smoke.
It's not a cold smoke. It's definitely smoking. But you're going to have to make sure you don't get any bacteria. And if you go super low, you're going to need to make sure that you put it in an oven and get the finishing temperature up to 170, 180. And I don't want to do that at all. So I like to take it about 150. I like a soft jerky. I don't like a real hard jerky.
So what's your cook time at?
Probably about 5.5 to 6 hours.
Really?
Yep.
Holy moly. That seems like an incredible amount of time, but not really?
No, no. I've done them in 4 hours in the FE, and I didn't think it was as good a flavor.
So when you had mentioned you like soft jerky or softer jerky, cooking it longer would give you more jerk feel to it, or is it less?
No, it dries it out more, and I like my jerky to be long and stringy. So when I take my top rounds, I cut them with the grain so that when I'm biting into it, it'll break.
Oh, okay. So that, I mean, that seems wouldn't it be a better bite against? Or are you biting against it?
I'm biting against it because of the way I cut it. So
Yeah.
it breaks, it snaps like a steak would.
Man, oh man, you got it all covered. Dave Bosca joining me here on the show. ButcherBBQ.com if you want to check it out, if you've never visited before while we're talking. I was listening to you interview Kevin Green from the Butcher Shop, and that was a really great interview. And we'll get into the podcasting stuff here in just a second. But one of the things that I thought I remembered about you, and maybe we had talked about it many lifetimes ago, obviously when I think of Dave Bosca, the key moment, the pinnacle moment of the Barbecue Central show visits have always been the certified Angus beef rant that you had many, many years ago. But during the interview that you had with Kevin, you had mentioned that you had spent a number of years, maybe even 12 years, as somebody that was opening up Sam's Club butcher, like the butcher part of Sam's Club. That was part of your life for many, many years.
Yes.
How did you get into
that? Say that again.
How did you get into that?
I was running a retail grocery stores right here in Oklahoma City, the meat market. And the very first meat market Sam's ever opened was here in Oklahoma City. The very first Sam's Club was on the other side, Midwest City, but the first set of fresh departments was right in Oklahoma City. I went to work there. I worked at the very first one they had. When I started with the company, there was 15 meat markets in the whole system.
That's it.
That's it.
Wow.
I moved to New England, opened up a club in Seabrook, New Hampshire, Westboro, Mass, Hudson, New Hampshire, East Brunswick, New Jersey. Wow, that was an experience. And came back to Oklahoma, went down to Texas, went to Tulsa for a while, back to Oklahoma City, just kind of traveled all around.
Are you a married guy at that point?
Yes, I was.
Are you still married to the same lady?
No, I'm not.
Oh, did the job kill it?
No, can't blame it on the job. It was all me, I'm sure.
But you were gone. I mean, you had to have been, but what was it like? They say, okay, Dave, we're sending you up to New England and you're going to be up there for a designated period of time. And they like put you up in hotels or they put you up in townhomes. How does that work?
Well, I remember when the director of operations came to me and says, hey, we've got you a club. We need you to go open. And they said, it's going to be Seabrook, New Hampshire. And I said, great. Where's New Hampshire? He said north and east.
Yeah, way north and way
downstairs. Yeah, I went downstairs, and that's when we had all the big book rack at the time. And I went down, got the atlas, and I opened it up. And I went, okay, north, east. I went, oh, crap.
Yeah.
And I had to call the wife, and they told her where we was going. And I think they gave me a month to report. And when we first got there, yes, I was in a club front. We didn't have possession of the club yet. We started hiring. I was setting up vendors, linen companies, hiring, everything like that. We got them trained, got open. I spent about a year there in New Hampshire.
So did they say, Dave, you're moving to Seabrook, New Jersey? Like you have to leave Oklahoma. This isn't just like an assignment where you could keep the home in Oklahoma and you're part-time in it out there in New Jersey.
No, I moved to New Hampshire. The wife, Levi, was 2 years old.
So he's well-traveled.
Oh, yeah, even as a little tyke.
Holy moly.
And I remember that first winter, we had like 33 inches of snow, and I'm coming from Oklahoma, and I'm going to tell you what, I was like shell-shocked.
Oh,
it was crazy.
I mean, not to mention the fact that, I mean, this is like a collision of a guy who couldn't sound and look more like a breadbasket of the country going up to New Hampshire where it's like a completely different lifestyle and the way they talk and the way they act and how urgent they are up there. I mean, that had to have been a culture shock on both sides.
Absolutely. It was on both sides. I remember I was the kind that get on the intercom and go, "Ee-oh, come on back to the meat market, folks. We've got a great sale going on." Just things like that. I'd say, grab a buggy and come on back. They'd come over there and they'd go, what is a buggy?
Not a cart, a buggy.
I'm like, a grocery buggy.
Yeah.
And I remember before we got the club open, it was in our club front, and it was a north meets the south. And I asked them, everybody in there, I says, draw a picture of the United States. Now tell me where Oklahoma is. There wasn't, I think maybe one, maybe two knew where it was.
Right. No doubt.
And I said, okay, what do y'all think of when you think of Oklahoma? Everybody said football.
Of course.
And then they said Indians.
What?
Exactly.
Indians?
They were, and I was asked more questions like, well, do you got to be prepared when you cross the lines? Will the Indians be there? And I'm like, really, folks?
You mean we Oklahoma's the only state where we didn't take all of the shit away from the Indians? They're still there roaming around, and they'll shoot you with arrows and take your scalp off, right?
And I remember that was the first time I got to see the ocean. I'd never seen the ocean before.
Right. Well, I mean, I can see that more than me. I mean, so what year are we in where people are asking you if the Indians are still around?
Had to be 92, maybe 93.
Oh my God. Yeah. So I can see people like, you know, my father-in-law has never been in an airplane before. I know there's people that have never seen the ocean before, but I mean, do you not know one skosh of American history and like how things are present day? Like things didn't just stop in time back then over in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
You didn't hit like a time streak, and it's like a whole different thing over there.
Yeah, I agree. And it just blew my mind. I remember one time we had our safety meeting, which Seabrook had the nuclear plant. They come over and was giving us a radio that we put in our cash office, and it had different levels on it. And they said, once a week, we're going to come out and have a level 5. Don't worry about it. That just means there's some gas going out into the system.
Oh.
A level 4 means that there's going to be a little bit more than gas. We may pump some stuff 2 or 3 miles out into the ocean. Okay. And then they said there's a level 2. Don't go outside. There's a problem.
Really?
And I said, okay. And I raised my hand. I said, what's a level 1? They said, you'll never hear the end of the broadcast.
You hear like a quick beep and that'll be it.
Yeah,
wow.
exactly.
So do you live on the edge at that point, or did you get pretty accustomed to pretty quick?
No, I didn't have a problem with it.
Yeah. As you're traveling around, was there a favorite spot? I mean that has to be tough, right? I mean, you're moving around. If you're only there for a year, you're probably just starting to get roots and friends and really feeling accustomed, and then you got to pack up and go open another set of stores somewhere else.
Yeah, we made some real good friends in the meat market. Obviously, you work with them every day. I was over the meat market, produce, and floral department. Yeah,
all of that.
Yeah.
Wow. So when were you just like an opener? So once they felt it was going, then if they were going to expand, you were just the guy they were going to tap, or do they go around and start asking people if they want to be the move?
I was assigned there, and my goal was to spend 2 years there, and I was going to try and transfer back to Region 6, which was right here where I live now. I ended up staying a little over a year, and then the regional merchandiser asked me if I would go on the road and do some opening. That's how I went to New Jersey and did some down in Mass.
Was there a favorite place that you stayed at in your travels?
I didn't care for Jersey at all.
Just like attitude and scenery and the whole deal?
It was all big city. It was, the climate, didn't care for it. At least in Seabrook where I was at, to me, it was a lot more city. a lot more country.
Mm-hmm.
I lived in a community about 20, 25 minutes away, commuted back and forth. It was real easy. It was more country view.
We're talking with Dave Boss, getting a little really cool Sam's Club background on him, by the way. Dave, can I carry you over to another segment? We can actually talk about the podcast stuff.
Sure.
All right. Stand by. We're talking with Dave Bosca from Butcher Barbecue. I will talk to you quickly about my friends over at The Barbecue Guru, longest running sponsor of the show, the creators of automatic temperature control technology. So if you are in the market, if you have some extra funds from Christmas and you were thinking about getting one, but you didn't pull the trigger, head on over to the website, bbqguru.com, and check out what they have to offer. If you have a kettle-style cooker, if you have a bullet-style smoker, if you have a decent-sized offset, they make fans that will blow into the firebox there, too, as well. bunch of different controllers to choose from. So if you want something that is more or less like a cruise control for the pit where it'll just keep it at a temperature and that's all you want. Party Q is something that you're going to want to need, something you want to look at. You probably want to need it. That's terrible English, by the way. You can also check out the more technical offerings that they have, to include the CyberQ Cloud. You can monitor several different internal temperatures. You can make adjustments through the app, no matter where you're at, as long as you're connected to the network. You can ramp the cooking temperatures up and down as well. So if things are cooking a little fast or a little slower, increase, decrease, put it on hold so the food stays in the safe zone. It's all great stuff. And again, the website is bbqguru.com, or you can give them a call and ask all your questions, 800-288-GURU. That's 800-288-GURU, or the website, bbqguru.com. The Barbecue Guru continues to be a breakthrough in barbecue technology. We are back with Dave Bosco right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, this portion of the show being brought to you by Pit Barrel Cooker, pitbarrel.com. The traditional size, or the flagship size, is back in stock, so if you missed out on the last round, go ahead and get your order in now. They also have the junior size, and at some point this year, maybe in the summer, they're going to be offering a bigger size, maybe into that 50-gallon range. So if you're into the hook convection, check out pitbarrel.com and order one today. $2.99 delivered to your door. Doesn't get any better than that. And we are rejoined by Dave Bosco. Thanks for hanging with me through the day there, pal. So let's talk about the Butcher Barbecue podcast. I think it was at some point, maybe in the Thanksgiving time, I get a text from a Dave Bosco saying, hey, can I bend your ear for a second? We'll get on a phone call, and you're talking about wanting to start a podcast. So, I got the inside scoop, but when did you decide, or who are you conversating with prior to a consolatory phone call with me? That's not a word, by the way. And say, hey, I have this idea of doing some kind of a podcast, and then you start to sketch it out and flesh it out. It seems like something you might want to do, and you start to look at it from more of a, hey, let's get this done perspective.
What I did, and made me even think about it, was I'm thinking it was in September. I was asked to do a live Facebook pod on a Facebook page for a pellet grill company. They advertised it. They had a lot of people tuning in, asking questions. It was going to last hour and 20, 30 minutes. I told them I didn't care how long. Let's just answer questions. And at one point, I was about 80 questions behind.
No way.
Yeah, and they were piling in. We got all caught up. The Q&A ended, and it made me really think. There's a need. There's people out there that's wanting to know how to do simple cooking, let alone just competition cooking. So I really studied the podcast world. I'd been listening to podcasts in archery for a long time. I listened to yours when I travel. So I knew that this was out there, and I kind of understood the concept. And the actual cost factor, it's fairly simple. It's not like you're doing videos. And I really have a hard time doing videos and getting them edited and then published. It's just hard for a one-man operator.
Yeah, for sure.
And I wanted to do something to give back. I don't do this as a monetary, as far as I want advertising, I want to do this. It's not what I'm doing it for. I studied tons of YouTube's, Facebook. I'm a Mac person, and I was trying to figure out how to make this work with Mac. It's not super simple, but it can be done. And that's what I did. I bought a separate Mac just for that.
Wow.
The mic, the ear stuff, and plugged it in, and let's see what'll happen.
Is the concept then to interview various people across the industry, and then at points say, hey, on these shows, I'm going to be answering questions, and on these certain shows, I'm going to be the guy doing the interviewing. How do you separate that?
I like it just like what we're doing. I want a phone call. I want a conversation back and forth. I don't want a CNN scripted broadcast. That's not what I like. I think it's hard sounding to listen to, I should say. And so I wanted to talk to some of my friends in the business. I want the listeners to be able to learn from each episode, be it someone in the rub business, someone in the restaurant business, someone in the general merchandise business, and then add comp cooks in. And then I did that live Q&A. It was kind of yuck sounding. The audio was pretty shitty, but it is what it is. I put that on a podcast. And right now I'm interviewing backyard cooks. They're calling in. We are doing just like what we're doing. I'm editing them, and we're going to put them on a podcast for themselves.
What's the biggest thing that you've learned getting into? Because I don't know how many people. We're not big famous stars. We don't have crews of people working behind us. There isn't an engineer behind the camera that I can't see that's off camera right now with you. There isn't one for me either. But there's a lot of successful podcasts out there that have a team. They're already successful because they were on television or they were radio hosts and they've gotten out of the business or they were fired or whatever. But they have a team of people to make this great sounding podcast right off the bat, and they have a huge audience already built in. But in real life, that's not the majority. I mean, the majority of audio podcasts get 125 downloads per episode in a month time frame. So that should tell you that there's a lot of podcasts out there, and if you are getting more than 125 listens per episode, you're probably doing better than the average. So what have you learned in all of this? Getting audio stuff set up, editing audio, how to stage or work your conversation, because you just can't go in unprepared. That if you're just flying by the seat of your pants, you're almost asking for a headache because you don't know how it's going to happen. You need some kind of direction. So what are some of the biggest things that you've learned as you've started to do this now, like 12, 13, 14 episodes in or whatever you are?
I took notes listening to you, listening to everyone in the barbecue podcast. I soft scripted questions for each and everybody person.
Sure.
I understood, either knew them, or had questions that I wanted to ask them, and I just worded them into the conversation. I let them do the talking. That's the number one thing I kept listening to. I'd listen to a few, and the host kept cutting off the person. And I'm like, now who's interviewing who? You're interviewing them, but you're trying to talk for them. So I will let my guests just speak, talk, go back and edit. The first half a dozen, I didn't do any editing. It recorded, we put it out, and a few times it says, need to edit. And I didn't exactly understand the word edit. What does edit mean when it comes to this? I went back and listened, and I heard myself go, and I was like, okay, here we go. I'm catching it. And the last two I've been editing, and I hate that.
Well, I've always found that if you do a 45-minute interview raw or an hour interview raw, you're obviously in at least an hour of editing, and it's usually anywhere between 50% more all the way up to, 2 hours in editing, because, I have a little bit of an OCD problem. I always want to sound great. And if I'm doing a pre-recorded, it even ramps up worse, because now in my brain, I go, well, I have no excuse now not to go through, enlarge everything and just start, I know what a wave looks like when somebody says, or ah. So I look for those, and I can go through and delete all those out, and not to a point where it's choppy, but the way my crazy mind is if I can take some of this out for the listener and make it sound, and make my guest, like if the guest listens to the raw stuff and then the finished stuff, I can't tell you how many times, because I used to do this thing for Meathead for quite a number of years. Some of these raw interviews were painful to get through, but then I would dust them up and play them for everybody, and everybody's like, "Oh, so and so sounds so great," and I would get these messages from my guests to go, "I didn't sound like that when we originally did this, but man, you made me sound so good." So editing is it's the most accomplishing feeling that you can have. And it is literally the most labor-intensive, most pain-in-the-ass portion of the whole podcasting system.
You ain't a kid there.
Yeah, no doubt. So who is your favorite interview so far out of the ones you've released?
I really enjoyed the way that Levi did the very first one.
Yeah, agreed.
That was a great interview. I think Richard with Fergalicious was a good interview. It's easy to talk to those guys that know how to talk, not do and stop and think every time they want to say something just like that. It's painful.
And as a host, you're looking for the way back into the conversation for you to pick it up. And if you don't know somebody's cadence or you don't have that relationship already built in, that's where a lot of the stepping over people comes into play. And you're either doing a lot of rework or a lot of editing to try and tighten that up.
That's exactly right. Lene was a good interview.
Oh, she's a great interview, both recorded or just live. I mean, she's one of those, I call them, she's a talker. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but she's definitive, she's passionate, she brings a lot of good energy, everything from a host perspective, because in an audible landscape, if the guest isn't excited, then the listener is going to be not so excited. And I'm always thinking of, I don't want to give them an opportunity to decide to tune out because they don't think the guest is invested enough in the interview. And she is a classic example of somebody that is really invested in what she's talking about and the message that she's trying to get across. So from a host perspective, it's real easy for me to kind of, I'm not carrying the weight of that interview by any stretch.
Right. We talked probably an hour after we quit recording.
Right. That's probably some of the best stuff that never even made it onto the podcast too, right?
Yeah, I wished we'd I wished I would have had a recording and not even have said anything.
Yeah, no doubt about it. From a host perspective, Dave, what's been the hardest thing for you? Because, we go back a number of years, but we're not like close personal friends. But you strike me as a guy who might be a little bit more reserved and obviously not as over the top as perhaps my personality might be when I'm on the air between 9 and 11. So have there been things that you've had to get out of your comfort zone to in order to be a little bit more gregarious or engaging in the audience?
Yes. And the number one thing is letting someone say, I'm so excited to talk to you. Well, I'm just a dude from Oklahoma that cooked a little barbecue and got lucky. But it's humbling, and I'm really excited. And I love talking to people that listen to the podcast and say, I learned so much about this. This last weekend, we had our Oklahoma Barbecue Society banquet, and I had probably 20 people there. I listen every week. I love it. That's what it's about for me.
Do you see any problem sticking to the release date of once a week? Do you have enough in the can to kind of keep that going?
No, I don't have enough to say I have it keep it going, but we're just a couple out.
Okay, so you have a couple show buffer.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So in 2020, what else could we expect as listeners? Because I listen in the morning when I'm getting my running.
I've got a few things up my sleeve I'd like to try. I'd like to try 2 and 3 comp cookers at one time, very similar to what you've done.
Yeah, the round table.
And yes, but not talk about their cooking. I'd like to talk to some different cooks about how they go about choosing what contest. It's first of the year. Let's figure out how you want to lay your calendar down.
Mm-hmm.
Does work talk about it? Just different things. This week, I'm interviewing my rub producer, the one that I hired to do all my rubs. We're going to interview them. I think that's going to be really good. I think it can be educational for the folks that want to start that. how to go about, what to expect, things like that.
Let me ask you one more question before I let you go, and I appreciate the time tonight, Dave. I have an email question from Sean McCulligan, who says, question for Dave. What would be the one piece of advice that you think would be most beneficial for beginning competitors now?
Practice what you're going to cook in a competition. It's really that simple. If you can't afford Wagyu, don't practice with prime at home and then go to the contest and cook a Wagyu. They cook different. If you have to go to the store and buy your ribs every time, buy the same ribs for your competition, because getting it cooked right is as important as the flavor. You can have something overcooked or something undercooked, and you're going to get hit hard, regardless of what the flavor is. So make sure your cook is cooked properly.
Would you suggest somebody taking a competition cooking class, or are you not too on board with that?
I don't have a problem with classes.
No.
I host them. We've been to them. Classes really does take the edge off.
Are they still as hot? I mean, I remember, Dave, when we would talk 5 and 6 years ago, maybe, I don't know, was it 2010 through 2015, 2016? It just seemed like, if somebody won a couple events in a row, we'd hear about it. Maybe I'd have them on the show. Then the next thing you know, they're out giving a tell-all competition barbecue class. Those seems to have dropped off a little bit. I mean, certainly they're still out there, but I don't know if they're as available and with such ferocity as they once were.
I made that realization this winter too. I think the last year, the year before, and the last 3 years back, they were every other weekend, it seemed like. This winter, it seems like there wasn't as many.
You think that's a trend that'll continue, or will they pop back up again? Or is this kind of a tell-all of where the state of competition barbecue is right now?
No, I think they'll come back.
All right. So we can subscribe to the Butcher Barbecue podcast on all of the various podcast platforms. Go to Apple, go to Google Podcasts, which is where I listen to it. You can go to Stitcher, all that good stuff. Anything else tonight, Dave, before I let you go?
Man, I appreciate it. And just like everything else, man, I appreciate your listeners.
You got it. This is Dave Bosca, the pitmaster of Butcher Barbecue, by the way, world champ at the American Royal. Yeah, that's right. And we'll talk to you again soon, pal. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Greg.
You got it. There he is, Dave Bosca from Butcher Barbecue. So hopefully he got all your questions answered. I saw a whole bunch of stuff coming into the chat as well. And Sean, hopefully cooking the food right. That reminds me of when we would interview Darren Worth, and he made it a extreme point. And I kind of mentioned it when I talked to some of the other competition cooks at this point now too. It's flavor profile is a hot term. It's been a hot term for a while now. If you're not cooking the food right, if the tenderness isn't there, that was what Darren was so staunch on. The tenderness has to be there. If it's undercooked, if it's overcooked, it doesn't matter where the flavor profile is, because you're going to get dinged. It's not going to matter. But if the tenderness is there, then that's when the flavor profile or the flavoring is something that will then lead to your calls, potential RGCs and GCs, so on and so forth. All right. Again, that was Dave Bosca, Butcher Barbecue. Let's go ahead and get ready to wrap it up. Before we do, let me talk to you quickly about the Smoke Sheet. Anybody reading the Smoke Sheet? Released every week. It's a free newsletter. Keeps you in the know on everything happening in the barbecue world, including top news, events, recipes, and more. Started by Ryan Cooper, a.k.a. Barbecue Tourist on Instagram, and Sean Ludwig, a.k.a. NYC BBQ on Instagram, both of them traveling around the country to find the best barbecue and report on it. You can sign up for the newsletter and see the full calendar of events when you go to bbqnewsletter.com and sign up. Again, that's bbqnewsletter.com, a great all-in-one resource covering the live fire industry. Smokin' Joe, I did say gregarious, not Greg Arias. Although that should be my name when I get arrested by the cops. What's your name, sir? Greg Arias? Oh, yeah? Who's your friend? That's Ron Mexico. You ever heard of him? Greg Arias, Ron Mexico. Together. Once again. All right, if you want to weigh in, do it. 216-220-0966. Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com. We're back to wrap the show right after this. Stick around.
Whole packers, full racks, legs and thighs, injecting butts. If you've never heard this before, you might think you found the best XXX show ever. Let's get back to the most homoerotic host out there today, Greg Rempe.
Welcome back. We are getting ready to head out of here. Thanks again to Dave Bosca for joining me the last two segments. I mean, we've had Dave on any number of times talking about big wins and contests, new products that he's launching. So getting the inside scoop on a previous life before Butcher Bar. I mean, he was the butcher part. But over a lot, I mean, that has to be some, I can't imagine, because I've never been in a position job-wise where I've had to even consider it, to go from where you are in Oklahoma all the way up into the New England area and then through Texas, a couple other stuff, New Jersey he was in, and then finally back to Oklahoma. But holy moly. That is a lot of travel, a lot of uprooting. More than once. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy. And I totally didn't even ask him about competitive archery. Dave is a highly competitive archer. I think he was, well, I don't want to misspeak here, Dave. I apologize if you're still listening and pulling your hair out. But I think he got hurt. And he was even at a higher level of archery than he is now. I think he shoots competitively in a league, but that's what eventually got him into competition barbecue was he had to stop competitive archery because of a back issue or maybe it was a shoulder issue, and then he had fallen into competitive barbecue, competitive guy, shooting competitive barbecue or shooting competitive archery, and said, hey, well, here's something that I can keep the competitive juices flowing, but for whatever reason, it was able to work with his body. That's a whole other segment that we can have with Dave down the road. Great stuff. All right, let's go ahead and beat it on out of here. All the way back in the first hour, we talked with Malcom Reed from How to BBQ Right and Killer Hogs Barbecue. After Malcom, we talked with Mark Anderson from the Grill Dads, grilldads.com. 224 is the launch of Bone In with Mark and Faye, their new podcast, interviewing a bunch of people just like conversation, announcing their launch on the Today's Show. Second hour, both segments, Dave Bosca, wow, talking about Sam's Club and opening the meat side, and he was over produce and flowers and the meat, all that stuff. And also talking about his podcast. So if you don't subscribe to the Butcher Barbecue podcast, do that now at all your podcast locations. They are great listeners. Go grill some pineapple this weekend. Everybody take shots, put them on social media, and tag me at BBQ Central Show on whatever platform you like. And the best ones I'll show on the show next week. Why not? Meathead is in next week, amongst others. September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. Until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, this is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Good night.
From Cleveland, Ohio, and you're listening to BBQ Central.